motor vehicle crashes, falls, playing sports, even riding a bike or on a playground. It can happen to you. So, what exactly is a concussion? Who is most susceptible? How long do they last? And how do they impact the brain function in everyday life? Hi, my name is Paige Nicholson, giving you a heads up on concussions. Concussions are a type of traumatic brain injury that is typically caused by an impact to the head, though in reality you don't have to be hit in the head directly. It is rather the whiplash-like motion of the brain rocking back and forth and crashing against the walls of the skull that causes a concussion. The result of this injury can stretch and bruise nerves and blood vessels, which can have some serious effects on the function of your brain. Concussions can happen to anyone, from infants to the elderly, but most commonly, concussions occur in youth age groups. The rise of concussions in the adolescent population is a study conducted in the United States between the years 2007 and 2014 to evaluate the trends of concussions diagnosed across age groups from a study of health records from 8.8 million patients. They reported two major findings. 1, the incidence of concussions has been steadily rising, and 2, adolescents had the highest incidence of concussions. Patients aged 10 to 19 years accounted for 32% of all concussions. The highest incidence was seen in the 15 to 19-year age group, with 16.5 cases for every 1,000 patients, followed by the 10 to 14-year age group, with 10.5 cases for every 1,000 patients. To put that into context, the incidence of concussions in people over 25 was typically 2 to 3 cases for every 1,000 patients. Concussions diagnosed in 10 to 19-year-olds more than doubled from 2007 to 2014. One explanation for the epidemic of youth concussion is increased sports-related events. The authors concluded that work to advance the education, treatment, and prevention of concussion should target the youth athlete. Other studies show how female athletes are more at risk of sustaining a concussion, as seen through girls' soccer. One likely cause of this trend is the difference in neck strength between genders. Women have smaller necks, making them more prone to whiplash and rotational forces, leading to more severe brain injuries. In addition, girls are 5 times more likely to continue playing with a concussion compared to boys. And that's probably why female athletes tend to suffer from concussions the most, in greater severities and in prolonged concussion symptoms. Concussions can affect memory, judgment, reflexes, speech, balance, and muscle coordination. Symptoms can vary from person to person. Some people with concussions report a brief period of amnesia, where they cannot remember what happened immediately before or after the injury. A loss of consciousness at the point of the injury is another indicator of a concussion. However, this is a common misconception, as most people with concussions never lose consciousness. Symptoms may not even occur right away, and they can last for days, weeks, or even longer. Some of the most common symptoms of concussions are headaches, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, and blurry vision. However, there's a much longer list of symptoms that can affect anyone and in different severities. There are 3 grades to assessing concussions. Mild, where the symptoms are headaches, difficulty focusing, memory loss, dizziness, and nausea. Moderate, which is all the same symptoms of grade 1, but with a brief loss in consciousness, ringing in the ears, and irritability. Severe, which includes speech difficulty, amnesia for more than 24 hours, vomiting, and seeing stars. High-grade concussions also experience the longest-lasting symptoms and are most at risk for brain damage. I'm unfortunate enough to have first-hand experiences with concussions, as it's happened to me 3 times. All were involved with playing on my high school sports teams within the course of 7 months. Note to the filmmakers, having multiple concussions in a short period of time is not good. But each one was different. The first time, I didn't notice any symptoms the first few days after the injury. It was only when I returned to school activities, like studying, where I experienced the severity of my symptoms. Headaches were, and still are, my biggest issue. It feels like a band that's being pressed against my forehead that gets increasingly more painful and irritating. Sensitivity to light and sounds were the next biggest contender, followed by dizziness and seeing stars. One would argue that my concussions were mild, as I did experience very light symptoms, but no concussion should be ignored. According to the American Association of Neurological Surgeons, although some concussions are less serious than others, there is no such thing as a minor concussion. In most cases, a single concussion should not cause permanent damage. A second concussion soon after the first one does not have to be very strong for its effects to be permanently disabling. Treatment is continually evolving as more research is done. People used to be told to have lots of rest in a dark room. However, new research shows that too much rest and isolation can lead to concussion symptoms lasting longer and can even cause other symptoms like anxiety and depression. Modern-day treatment can vary, as every concussion is different and there is no set timeline for recovery. It is advised for patients to see a concussion specialist within days of the injury in order to determine the right treatment. What is your name? What year is it? What is your name? Do you remember what just happened? Memorize these 5 words for me. Say the months of the year in reverse order. Say the months of the year in reverse order. That was the SAC test, and these questions are typically asked on the sidelines of a sports game or in the emergency room. It's used to get a sense of an athlete's mental status following the event of a suspected concussion. Normally, resting in a dark room is helpful for the first 1 to 2 days after the injury. Then, implement a gradual return to your everyday activities until you are symptom-free. Most specialists recommend working for 15 to 20 minute periods and then resting. You should use the 15 to 20 minute time period for every activity you do, and you should block out any other stimulation or symptom triggers to assess your progress. Start with light reading, then move on to texting or internet surfing, listening to music, and doing homework. Remember, every concussion is different, but in general, concussion symptoms are usually resolved within 14 to 21 days. In order to help you recover faster, there's some tips you can follow. First of all, avoid all triggers as best as you can. These are things that can onset your symptoms like too much screen time, bright lights, wear sunglasses, loud sounds, excessive movements of the head, like being jostled around in a subway car, activities that cause too much thinking, dehydration. It's important to drink water while your body is healing. Strenuous exercise. Keep it light. Eat more protein. Be patient. And rest. Post-concussion syndrome occurs when symptoms from a concussion or history of concussions last longer than expected. This can be caused by not following the treatment process or not avoiding your triggers, which will only prolong the symptoms. Sometimes people do not see a concussion specialist and might not know the right treatment to follow. There may be other factors involved that a healthcare professional could assess and prescribe you with a follow-up treatment. After my 3rd concussion, I continued to be symptomatic for months after the point of injury. I had constant headaches that would come and go throughout the day and would range in different severities depending on what stimulatory actions I was doing. I went to a chiropractor once a week to relieve neck pain, and that seemed to improve my muscle soreness, but I didn't notice any change with my headaches. Then I finally saw a concussion specialist who did a proper assessment of my concussions and guided me through a series of post-concussion rehab exercises. These exercises can target your physical, cognitive, vision, and vestibular abilities. And they're not meant to be pleasant. They are intended to trigger your symptoms, as this helps the brain get used to working again. However, if you notice at least 3 of your symptoms worsen to a significant degree while doing these exercises, you need to stop. Give your brain a rest until your symptoms are gone. Then you can continue. My concussion specialist told me to do these exercises as often as I can. I've also started a diary where I can track my headaches throughout the day and note how far along I got with the exercises. You can find a lot of these exercises online, and most of them are easy to do at home. The easiest way to prevent post-concussion syndrome is to not get a concussion in the first place. You can't prepare for every possible situation, but following safety measures like fastening seatbelts and wearing a helmet for sports can certainly help. Concussions are a serious issue and are rapidly becoming more prevalent in adolescence. Damage to a maturing brain can have detrimental effects if not treated immediately. Therefore, we need to increase the world's understanding of concussions to know how to spot one and to make concussion treatment and rehab more accessible to lessen the possibility of long-term effects. In fact, many places are already enforcing concussion laws and requirements for healthcare, schools, and sports coaches. It is important to review concussion awareness documents and establish a concussion code of conduct to support the prevention of any head injuries.
And if you happen to get one, don't use your head. Let your brain rest.